Whoever makes commentary over a stock footage is a real asshole. So I guess we'll get into this right here. How do I come up with making stock footages of random crap, then just let the camera sit there and record and just, may look like a still image, but really it's just footage. I guess you could say that sometimes you might need a still shot of something for like transitional stuff or background stuff or something of the like. But why not just take a still image and just, leave it right there? Well, there is something a little bit different about using a video recording to fill in the background versus a still image. Because with a still image, there's really no noise to it. There's really not a whole lot of clues, to say the least, of that just to basically prove that it's a video. And with a video, there's a lot more to entertain the eye versus a photo. Although if a photo has a lot of detail, there's a lot to look at. But however, if you have a video with a lot of detail, there's a lot to look at from there. Like this one right here, you could kind of see the clouds moving by, and you might notice the little dead trees back there are kind of moving a little bit. And the main focus is, of course, the power line, which may sway a little bit from the wind. So there's a little bit of information going around, and it's not really anything interesting to stare at for a while, so I guess that almost defeats the purpose. But some people might find some purpose in this video right here. They might want to use it as a background for when they want to talk over something, or might use it as, I don't know, something else. Say they have a video gaming project and they want to put a pre-rendered video in a window to kind of portray like you're actually looking outside, or can barely look outside just on the look of the footage. Although I could find something a little bit more specific, or maybe the creator could find something more specific, but someone might find a use for it, and I just hope that's always the case when it comes to making these little stock footages. Now, what is in my head when it comes to making these? I guess I just want to find an interesting scene that you can kind of just stare at for a while, and then just kind of, use that in a project perhaps. It's just kind of very vague, nothing really too specific. I think that's the best way to go about it, is never going off any specifics. Although it seems like the most frequent stock footage that I've recorded is water-based, because you see water, even though a waterfall looks like it's just repeating itself on a very repetitive loop, but each spray of water is unique, and when you record it, you can at least capture it and see it again in its, in the very same way that it was, spraying around. But when you see it in person, it's going to be slightly different. Although it looks exactly the same, it's just a waterfall. I mean, the reason why people like to go to Niagara Falls is because it's just a enormous waterfall that's just, neat to see. Sort of like the difference between seeing a firecracker explosion versus a, being able to witness a big old kaboom from some dynamite. So I guess you could kind of think of it as sort of like that. Maybe some allure to some different locations. But I guess the reason why I like to use a lot of the water backgrounds is because you can easily fill in the background with something like that. Like when you're talking over something, oh hey, Ornifex the kitten. Yeah, she wants to be part of this video too, don't you? You could probably barely hear her. I put the microphone settings low, so that way it almost sounds like professional quality. So I kind of went off track there, so maybe I can just fill in the time, because this one's kind of long stock footage. I guess I can fill in the time with talking about things that I know about when it comes to aquariums. Let's see, depending on what kind of fish that you have, it's either goldfish aquarium, cichlid aquarium, or a tropical community aquarium. Let's go off a tropical community aquarium this time. Say that you have a semi-aggressive aquarium or versus a tropical, like a regular, a peaceful one. Alright, so peaceful ones or aggressive ones, you want to go for each inch of fish per gallon. You want to make sure they have a lot of space, because each gallon is used for their wastes and, ammonia's waste, fecal matter, all that stuff, and space to move around. You can't really expect 6 fish to fit in 1 gallon container. Although it may seem like there's a lot of space there, really there's not a whole lot of space for them to do their business in, just to live. Pretty much it's similar to, you would rather live in a big house versus a closet. And if you have a living space that's like a closet, you feel cramped, you can't put a lot of stuff in there, and also your quality of life will plummet because of the stress of living in such a confined space. And of course, there's some people that are just claustrophobic. You'll never know if your fish is claustrophobic. I mean, some fish have their own individual, there's some of them are little individuals. Let's see. So besides the gallon space, you always have to keep in mind that when you're buying new fish, they're most likely young or babies. You have to keep in mind that they're going to be full grown someday. You don't expect your fish to die. That's the best way to, go into pet care, is to assume that your animal of choice isn't going to die within the same week or month or year or so. Expect them to live for a little while, so always plan ahead. So those guys are going to grow eventually, and you'll have to keep those sizes in mind. Here I go backtracking a little bit, because some fish will go up to they might stay 1 inch their whole life, or they might grow up to 3 inches or bigger, and you have to keep those sizes in mind. And also you have to keep in mind of the mannerisms of specific fish and their specific needs. Mollies commonly need aquarium salt to make the aquarium slightly brackish, not necessarily making it a saltwater tank, but more of a slightly brackish tank. Those guys absolutely require it to keep their slime coat healthy and keeps their gills clear. Basically, it's almost like they have asthma, and this is in their inhaler, and pretty much the aquarium salt acts as like sort of a humidifier for the rest of the fish. So yes, it is beneficial for the rest of the tank, just that the mollies absolutely need it. So you have to keep those bits and bobs in mind. Tetras in general are all schooling. Danios too. They're schooling fish. Usually there's some debate between you have to have odd numbers of schooling fish, but usually in a tank you can get away with 5 or 6 minimum. But in the wild, usually the most minimum schooling is 14 to 16 fish in an actual school. But however, in the wild, they don't have reflections to look at or anything in a small confined space for that matter. So when you have 6 of them, it will look like 12 to the fish when they are hugging around the walls and looking at the reflection, seeing other fish with them. So it kind of fools them in that sense. So you could do that. You could still get a school of like 12 or 14 or 16 or 20 more schooling fish and have them, comfortable in a tank, provided you have about a 30-40 gallon tank for that kind of deal. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of fish in there. Most of them might be small, maybe up to 1 inch in size, but you got to give them enough space to move around. Yeah, you got to think of it at their level. Now, fish keeping can be a little bit of a difficult business as a difficult task, because you can only go off of general guidelines and rules and all that stuff, because you can't really experience the inside of that tank. Heck, a tropical community tank generally needs the temperatures between 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So, yeah, it might feel a little bit cold to you, but that's actually pretty warm. And warm to you might be like 80s, high 80s to 90s. Something past your body temperature, obviously. So probably not even close to 80s. So definitely some marine tanks can be pretty warm, but sometimes some specific fish need it in a very specific temperature. Kind of backtracking a bit here, but goldfish versus tropical. Goldfish, you need colder water. They don't need a heater. In fact, you might need a heater to kind of keep the water warm if it's a really cold place. Well, only warm for them. They need it in like the low 60s, mid 60s. Definitely nothing in the high 60s to 70s, because then you're going to go near the tropical, territory. Let's see. So yeah, there's some fish that require different temperatures of water. So, in a home setting, they'll do definitely a lot better, especially when you do your research and find the specifics that those fish will need. Then you'll know what to do. While in the stores, you might find they're dying off here and there, but that's usually because the filtration systems in stores are way too efficient, and usually they're all regulated at the same temperature that's in like the in-between, so neither tropical or goldfish are usually happy, or if they have 2 separate filtration systems and 2 separate temperatures that they're holding out, then they might be able to keep them, generally in a happy state. But Usually it's really difficult to keep fish alive in stores because of just the vague and non-specific numbers you're going to keep them at, especially the pH and the temperatures. So in a home setting, they'll definitely do a lot better. Not all stores neglect their fish. The only stores that I find that neglect fish are like Walmart. There's literally this one Walmart in my area that uses a picture of gravel for the bedding. Yeah, just a picture is good enough. I mean, forget that gravel kind of helps, trap the feces and missed food, so that way when you go through and do your cleaning with a gravel vacuum, it's easier to keep it clean. No, forget that. Just use a picture. It's the same thing. In fact, they use a Plectostomus in every single tank, or pleco for short. Plecos are algae eaters. They get pretty big. They output a lot of ammonia, a lot of waste, much like goldfish, but they can go into tropical tanks. Well, they can only go into tropical tanks because they like tropical temperatures. Although you're going to find some lazy bastards out there that are going to be like, oh, I don't want to scrub the tank. I'm going to get an algae eater so that way they can eat the algae off my tank. No, they cannot go in there. Oh, but I've seen them in there. But you shorten their life down. Basically, it's a life of prison. I mean, sure, you got a place to sleep, 3 square meals a day, but you're going to be absolutely miserable. So when a goldfish tank with a pleco, it's going to be out of their happy zone, and they're going to be miserable. They're going to be stressed. They're going to have a shortened lifespan. Normally, a Plectostomus, from what I can extrapolate, usually lives about 10, 15, 20. They can live up for decades. But then you have these people who have fish for 50 years, and each time I get a Pleco, it dies within a year. Yeah, these Plecos are supposed to live for a while. You're supposed to plan ahead. I don't care that you had fish for many years. You're just stupid. Anyway, this commentary's gone long enough. I'm just gonna stop it right here.